we're staying focused on the end result, which is Father Yah and his kingdom established on this planet. With that, I yield back. I would like to go ahead and yield the call to Dr. HENDO I.L. Henderson, the ad hoc Chief Justice of the Universal World Court. He is YAHOSHUA Mashiach, the Son of Man, the Son of God, in the flesh. Rise and shine, sir.
Rise and shine. How do you hear me?
Very clearly, sir.
Outstanding. If I might say, this is the United Nations call. I normally like to come in a formal way. I don't always do that. Sometimes it's very much informal. When I do come formal, I want to express the fact that this is the would-be universal call. This is the United Nations call. And as we say rise and shine to them, we also notify them by saying we're still here. We want to know from all of the world, the international world, are they listening? Can they hear us? Based upon the fact that right now, with everything that's going on, there is no way back. You know, a lot of people are believing that for some strange reason, some of the would-be surrounding areas are going to be able to come up with a new nation, or they're going to be able to come up with a nation that's going to take full charge and be some master would-be plan to overthrow what's going on now. I can assure you that's not going to happen. Definitely not if it's coming from some place that they call the United States of America. No matter what the U.S. does right now, if they might still be deemed to be an area of interest, it would not be a familiar area coming in the few would-be years that we're looking at right now. We're looking around the year of 2025, 2026, America will be a nation that will be all gone when it comes down to them having any so-called legal standing. They will not have a legal standing. And by that, all nations will begin to do nothing more than disconnect themselves from any would-be so-called plan that the U.S. would have had. Right now, the last time we heard from the U.S. of A., from anyone that would be speaking in a manner whereby we could believe it or that it will become fact, that was one that they have deemed to be one of their prior or formal presidents. They're calling him by the name of Donald J. Trump, and some of them even now refer to him as being nothing more than a felon. But I must get them to understand that he is speaking total truth to them, being that he's doing it in his own way, in his own manner, has nothing to do with the system that will be coming forth to the world. Mr. Trump has stated to all of the people this particular time around during his campaign, he has mentioned to them that they would find a moment where they're never, ever going to have to vote again to come up with their leader for the United States of America. And we shouldn't have much more but to agree with him. We would also have to let him and remind him that the reason he's being able to make that statement is because of everything that's going on the planet right now. He can assure them, no, there will never come again where it's going to be needed for any vote or any nation will be having to find itself dealing or focusing on any nation by the name of the United States of America because they won't exist anymore. And regardless of who deem themselves to be taking the control center of the place they're calling now the United States of America, they can assure themselves that they won't be needed either. And I know right now, as we're looking, the United Nations is beginning to laugh out loud because America is believing that for some strange reason it's going to come up with a black female or it's going to come up with some other black entity that's going to be able to take control of the United States of America. We're not even recognizing that the United States of America is not going to be an entity. It's not going to be in existence. So you're not going to need a leader for the United States of America. We must agree that there's going to be a dark black entity that will take over that area. That black entity is going to be the same entity that had that would-be land when it first was created by God. That's where we're headed right now. We're headed back to that black entity and that black would-be leadership, and I can assure the United States of America it was not a feminine force that was controlling that area. As a matter of fact, that area was controlled by 5 unincorporated nations. 5 of them. Not one of those corporations, not one of those unincorporated nations, unincorporated, not one of those unincorporated nations were controlled or ran by a feminine force. Not one of them. No no matter what they may be coming up with, some ideology of archaeology that they're digging up bones, whereby there may have been a crown on the head of some would-be so-called skeleton, that they're now claiming it to have been a feminine force. That's not true. And it's going to be proven as the time is going forward now. America now is so in a rush to put a black female in charge of what once they believed was a black nation or a black world, until they're going at the wrong people. They're actually identifying with the wrong people. Because those people were not a part of that melanated community at that moment in time. They're not a toxinist to that land, put it that way. And we already know that everybody on the planet now is aware that the United States of America is trying to place one known as Kamala, Karama, whatever she wants to name her name to be, that it sounds proper to some so-called would-be entity of a homosexual and a gay world. And all that sounds good. At the end of the day, nobody is threatened by that. No one. Because I can assure you that that whole would-be empire is not going to exist here in the coming days, in the coming months, in the coming weeks. Whatever time zone or frame you want to place it in, that entity will no longer exist. It will be gone. Phase out. Because right now they're looking for an excuse. They're looking for an excuse to be able to hang on to some land that doesn't belong to them, that was never given to them. And I'm talking about the European force, the European system, that Nazi system that was set up in the United States of America in 1776. And that Nazi world is crumbling as we speak. It will never, ever rise again. It was part of that which would have been known as the Phoenix. And the Phoenix did rise, even though they did it back in the year, would have been in 2000, where they began to have, called would-be, Olympic. The Olympiad of that time frame of the 2,000 years, they had this Phoenix bird that was somehow doing nothing more than descending out of the ashes to rise over the universe again. Just recently, they began to march the one they call Jesus the Christ by placing a bunch of homosexuals, or should we call them faggots, on stage to present themselves as some would-be so-called God of the universe. And we must agree that right now the world is headed back in that direction. The United Nations, stay with me, because the United Nations is already well aware of the fantasy of the U.S. of A., but at the same time, we are also aware of the prophecy of the United States of America. And the prophecy tells us that when the destruction of that world comes, it will be the same as it was during the time of Noah. This time it will not be the flood of water, but it will be a flood of fire. Reason being is because Sodom and Gomorrah was also destroyed by what was known as brimstone and fire. And right now, the United States of America has made itself out to be Sodom and Gomorrah, based upon homosexuality and homosexual activity, transsexual activity, same-sex marriages. Yes, we do know that right now they're building a plan to take over the U.S. of A. through better known as the would-be so-called Harris administration, based upon her gay husband and all the other would-be gay men that he's now finding the time to go out and reach based upon some so-called would-be financial status that all of them seem to be in. Believe it or not, it has been proven that they have saved a substantial amount of what they might classify to be their financial status, because they didn't have any women that they had to take out for dinner. They didn't have any women that they had to support for child support or any other would-be type of situation. So they were able to save their so-called would-be credit of what now they believe they have earned through doing nothing more than refraining from having sexual relationships with females. And they have saved their money. And I'm talking about those gay faggot men all over the universe. And yes, they might be claimed, or they might be considered to be some of the richest men on the planet. However, they don't deem themselves to be men. They just deem themselves to be rich. And so now they believe that they're going to be able to buy the world. They're going to be able to purchase the world, whereby they will be able to molest their children, because no one would see them as any harm to any would-be so-called gender. And they're going to look like their gender, accepted to all genders. They're going to look that way. They're going to seem to be where you cannot have any would be so-called animosity, anger, or any other type of negative attitude toward gender. That was one of the things that during the Obama administration, they made sure that they placed in their law. That you could not have any animosity, any anger, neither could you bring any complaint against any other gender or gender classifications. Thereby, they believe now that the genders will be able to take over the planet and take over the world. And I can assure you, no one is arguing that fact that they won't. But believe it or not, YAHOSHUA Mashiach must come to tell them that yes, you will take charge. You will be in control, but it will not last long. Because that brimstone and fire that once destroyed Sodom and half of Gomorrah, known as the state of Georgia, Gomorrah, it will again return. Remember, you yourself have written a statement where you say that history always repeats itself, and it's about to. One thing I can say about history is also part of prophecy. And this history tells you, along with prophecy, that once this history repeats itself, it will be now its last standing. And it will never again be able to repeat itself because it will land itself in hell. And whereby it will be chained for a lifetime. It will be chained forever. And thereby, it will die. I know that everyone now is standing by watching it. All the nations are beginning to laugh out loud, like I said, because the United States of America is the nation of Babylon, and everyone now has been able to recognize it based upon its actions, not based upon its word, not based upon some book that they found that was hidden a law. But they have come to recognize and realize that it is a fact based upon its actions, and that is where the whole world now is seated watching the United States of America crumble. We're bringing this because the United Nations are well aware of it. And right now, even though there's nations that are sitting down having peace talks of negotiations, the U.S. of A. has not yet sat down with one nation on the planet to have a peace talk. And even though they're over now talking about reincorporating Japan into a new would-be so-called army system or a military system, that's all about war. It has nothing to do with peace. And Americans over in Japan now believing that they're going to revamp a nation that they actually bombed with nuclear bombs, and now they're going to force them through the manner of threat to be able to build some so-called would-be strong army against China. But they're not recognizing that China right now has been sitting down with nations like France and Europe, and they're revamping a plan whereby, again, the lion, which is known as Europe, the other nations known as the White Dragon, where they will all be mixed in a combined effort to destroy the United States of America. They will all combine because they will be considered the beast that will be classified as the lion. And the lion and the leopard, they will combine. That's China. They will combine and they will come to fight against the U.S. of A. You have the lion, the leopard, and the bear. And they will all three will eventually come together, and they will come to get that nation known as the nation of Babylon, that nation that will be known as the dragon of old, the old red dragon. And they will all converse upon the dragon. At some point, they will turn, and they will do nothing more than destroy that old dragon. The bear will come down out of the north, and that old with the leopard will come out of the south. And the north and south will be covered where the U.S. of A. will not be able to get out of it. And then you will have that old lion that will come out of the west. And thereby, the dragon has no other choice because they will push him westward. And as they begin to push him westward, he will run there to try to find himself connecting with the lion, only to know that the lion will have been turned on him. And then they will push him from the north, the south, and the west. They will push him all the way eastward. And then when he goes eastward, he will find that the leopard would have found a way to also not come out of the south, but he will be also coming out of the east. And thereby, that old dragon will be caught in the middle. Yes, of a four-way fight, north, east, south, and west. And he will then find himself being destroyed. And the world will be all joyful that that old beast, that old red dragon, will finally be caught in his own would-be trap. And he will then descend into the old would-be so-called dungeon, where they will say, this is the dungeon of legions and the legions of dungeons. And he will find himself there cast into fire, where he will be chained forever. United Nations, I'm only giving you the prophecy right now. Remember, I'm a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can save anybody. That's all I'm here to do. I can assure you that, yes, America will more than likely, as they are already positioning themselves, they're going to fight a fierce fight to put some feminine force of darkness in charge of the U.S. of A, because they know that old witch, that old one, the witch that rides upon the head of the dragon, who is dressed in scarlet, that looks almost as if though it was royal purple. There she will sit only to be terminated and destroyed. She will be laughing and grinning and smiling, knowing that she would have brought the spirit of the old he spirit, which would be of a homosexual spirit, to the world, where the world would have donned its own garments of nothing more than scarlet outfits of blood. And then they will be destroyed. I'm just giving them the prophecy. Don't get angry with the messenger. The messenger is only bringing you the prophecy. The prophecy has been written. Many of you have read it. Some of you now want to dismiss it based upon the fact that you are not in control of it, or you're not the leader of it, or you're not the one able to, let's just say, prophesize it. And thereby you're angry because Father God did not give you any would-be so-called authority over it. Now, I'm here to tell you, I do not care how you feel about it. I can tell you I'm here now. And I'm preparing now the 7 trumpets. And along with the 7 trumpets, I will bring you, yes, you got it, the old 7 would-be so-called, oh, you don't want me to say it? Well, you want me to talk about the 7 angels? You don't want me to talk about the 7 seals, though. Just the 7 angels, right? Let me help you out. I'm going to bring you the 7 trumpets. I'm going to bring you the 7 would-be so-called angels. And then I'm going to drop something real, real heavy on you called the 7th seal. You can't open it. I'll give it to you. You cannot open it. You can't, and even if you were strong enough to open it, you wouldn't be able to understand it. Because it's written in heavenly would-be so-called words. And you remember, in order to be able to understand the heavenly words, you would have to understand the letters. And to understand the letters, you would have to become the letters. And thereby, once you become the letters, you would know how to form yourself to become the word. And once you learn how to, there you go, form yourself as the word, you're following me now. Then only then will you be able to understand the prophecy of the universe. And that, I know for a fact you're not capable of doing. There's no doubt in my mind. Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receive his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into a cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. God Almighty, I wonder where that comes from. Let me help you out. It's talking about the number of the beast. It's talking from the standpoint of Revelations, the 14th chapter. That's 2 times 7. God Almighty, I love this stuff. Because there's no way out of it, especially for that old dragon, the United States of America. And I'm not afraid to tell them who they are. They need to know. They have been searching for years. At least 250 years of their own admittance. They have been searching. They have been looking for the answer. Who am I? Where did I come from? How did I come to be? How did my fathers, how did my mothers become so rich? How did they become so wealthy? How did they receive all of this land? Now I'm going to tell you. Through theft, stealing, murdering, raping, molesting, trafficking, human trafficking, trafficking children, women, and men. And now they have taken their captives and they're trying to turn them into leaders, whereby they'll find some way to give themselves an excuse, whereby they won't be held accountable, or should we say, prosecuted for the things and crimes that they have committed. So now they're going to try to pass it on to their captives, so that their captives will do nothing more than march like niggers who are trying to do nothing more than save themselves again from the master's whip. They were, God Almighty. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Nope. The masters are going to pay for his crimes. He is going to pay for the crimes with his blood. He is going to pay for the crimes with his life. I'm just giving you the truth. And he will be in war, let's just say, for at least 42 months. Those are not my words either. Stop it. You always want to accuse me. You always want to accuse me when it comes down to the time of your punishment. But it says that then I was given a reed like a measuring rod, and the angel stood, saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and those who worship there. But leave out the court which is outside the temple, and do not measure it, for it has been given to the Gentiles. The Gentiles. They are the ones who say that they are Gentiles. All of them say that they are Gentiles. They all say that they're sinners, and they fall short of his glory. I know they do, don't they? But it also says, and they will tread the holy city underfoot for 42 months. And I will give power to my two witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,262 days. 260 days. You caught that. I'm so glad you did, because you will be clothed in sackcloth. And these two olive trees and these two lampstands standing before God of the earth. I am just giving you the prophecy. It's on its way. You don't have to. No, don't get impatient. And just relax. Just relax. There's nothing you can do to prevent it. No. I know you can go from sea to shiny sea, or you can go from the sea of China Sea to the shiny sea. You're still going to find there will be nothing you can do to prevent it. Nothing that you can do to stop it. And you definitely won't be able to do anything to control it. You know why? Before we take the break, I'm going to tell you exactly why you won't be able to do anything about it. Because the earth is the Lord and the fullness thereof. All that is within it. All that is around it. All that is beneath it, and all that is above it. It all belongs to God. Yah Allah, God of the universe. And he has given to his servant, the one in whom you call the Son of Man, nothing more than what you deem to be magic, nothing more than what you deem to be a miracle, nothing more than what you deem to be the all power of heaven and earth. He has given it to his servant. And out of his mouth will come a two-edged sword. Because those times in which he has done is the very next thing that he says in that 11th chapter that I was telling you about. If anyone wants to harm them, that fire will proceed from their mouth and devour their enemies. That's that fire I'm telling you about. The one that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. It's covered again. This time it's going to come out of the mouth, of that one witness. And if anyone wants to harm them, he shall and must be killed in this manner. No, I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just giving you the truth. You don't want to hear about the rest of it. Let's do all of us a favor and take a short break. Maybe after the break, you might want to hear the rest of it. We'll see. We'll listen to your heart. We'll listen to your spirit. And then the decision will be made. Meantime, let us all take a break.
Thank you, Yahushua. I hope those of you in the so-called United States, that's commonly called that, which very shortly, that name will never be called again. And if anybody brings it up, it's just going to be a hissing sound. Shh. Everyone's saying, shh. We don't want to hear that name ever again. Those of you in the so-called U.S., he just laid out everything that is just about ready to happen here in the next 42 months. Most of you are totally unprepared. Most of you are rejecting everything that he's saying. But I can tell you that if there be any of you of the righteous that hear his words believe his words, and want to stand with him, get yourselves indexed. Your time is counting down. The indexing is your protection, your restoration. It is what places you in that safe place and restores you. What that whole criminal Babylonian system has taken from your ancestors over the last 1,000 years. He's shown you your collapse and explained it to you just in this call alone. Shalat laid it out. You can either accept it or you can reject it. Again, I say your time is counting down. Last Friday, on this very call, YAHOSHUA told Barack Obama to steer clear of any support for Kamala Harris. However, as of yesterday, actually, information came out that Obama had told Biden that he had Kamala Harris's approval to use the 25th Amendment to kick him out of office. And so she was on board with declaring Joe Biden incapable and kicking him to the curb. Senior official, according to this report, information from Seymour Hersh, a senior official in Washington who helped him put together the account, said that the White House is in complete disarray. That Obama called Biden after breakfast and said, here's the deal. We have Kamala's approval to invoke the 25th Amendment. He went on to write that Obama did not plan on immediately endorsing Kamala Harris, but it was clear that she would get the nod. Mr. Hersh also confirmed that Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Hakeem Jeffries were also directly involved. YAHOSHUA has already explained to us this was simply, once again, another coup set up by the so-called U.S. So, for those of you that are in the U.S., this call alone has explained to you everything that you need to know that's coming at you. Again, you have a short window of time to step forward and identify yourself. You're going to do that through the indexing process. You can go to our websites, sovcpr.com and .org. Again, that's S as in Sam, O-V as in Victor, CPR, like cardio, pulmonary resuscitation.com and .org. There's a tab at the top of the homepage to the far right that says Indexing Portal. That's where you go to complete your indexing process.